Welcome back, everyone. For the SUTD-Duke-NUS Special Track panel, please welcome Dr. Koo Xiao Zhen from SUTD, Professor London Lucien Wee from Duke-NUS, and Sahad Zahir from SUTD.
Hello. Hi. A warm welcome to everyone with us here today live, as well as to those of you joining us on your digital devices, your phones, your tablets, laptops. Okay, welcome to SUTD. So as Program Director of the Duke-NUS SUTD Special Track, I'd like to give you an overview of our program, and then I'll invite Dr. Wee from Duke-NUS, as well as Sahad, one of the students in our Special Track, to share with you a little bit more. All right, so I'll start off with our vision. So we have this track because we believe in nurturing a special breed of clinicians, which we call clinician innovators, with a strong foundation in engineering, architecture, and design, who can think creatively and work across disciplines to treat patients and to bring about real medical innovation. All right, so beyond seeing patients and treating patients, can you come up with solutions to truly impact healthcare? Okay, that's what we hope to achieve with this track. So just briefly, I wanted to share with you what the special track academic pathway looks like. So those of you in this program will be joining us at SUTD for 8 terms across 4 years. And then after your time at SUTD, you'll move on to the Doctor of Medicine program or the MD program at Duke-NUS. Okay, I just wanted to highlight one thing in that the admission to Duke-NUS is a conditional admission contingent on your academic performance and other criteria, which we may discuss later on. So coming to SUTD, we hope, right, that you will enjoy our unique pedagogy, which is, I've highlighted in the 3 big terms at the top: cohort-based, meaning small group, very interactive between the faculty and the students; cross-disciplinary, so again, instead of going just deep in one subject area, you actually get a very broad education in the humanities, in design, and in different areas of science and engineering. And then, of course, design-centric. We are a design university at our core, so you will do many different projects, right, along your academic journey. And so beyond just knowing the theory, you'll be expected to design and to develop real products, services, and systems, okay, to change the way we do things. So here are 5 of our degree programs. You can get more information about each of these at the individual talks or at the booths outside. Okay, we also offer a host of minor programs, and we also enrich our curriculum with opportunities in design innovation, AI and data science, as well as humanities, the arts, and the social sciences. So this cuts across all our 5 degree programs. So I just want to flash this up. I'm not going to go into each of these individually. We can talk more about that at the booth outside later on. But I just want to show you that we have a whole host of different opportunities in which you can get engaged in healthcare here at SUTD. So beyond the healthcare courses, there are also research opportunities in our Europe program. There are internship opportunities, as well as, say, capstone design projects or final year projects where you will get to go deep in designing a healthcare solution with an industry partner, whether a hospital partner or a medtech industry partner. Finally, as a special track student, I wanted to share with you some of the opportunities that are unique to you. Okay, so one of which is this special track mentorship, which will be available to you throughout your time with us at SUTD. So you will be assigned a buddy, right, to ease your transition into SUTD. So any questions, just ask your buddy. Okay, so Sahad, for example, he's experienced with this. You will be assigned in SUTD faculty as a technology mentor. So here you can ask your your assigned technical mentor any sort of engineering, science-related questions. And this tech mentor will also be following your progress, okay, advising you along the way. And from term 4 onwards, you will also be assigned to a SingHealth clinician. So this is something that's really unique and a great opportunity for you to learn about clinical practice, right? What it takes to be a doctor. And again, your clinician mentor is going to give you great advice on how to improve your portfolio to ensure that you'll succeed in medical school, okay? So beyond that, we have a whole host of faculty here. As you know, healthcare is one of the major thrust areas at SUTD. So you will be, these faculty will be available for you to kind of do projects with, right, to bounce ideas off. So we have this great environment. Okay, and finally, what we've done is also we've purchased a bunch of MCAT is the standardized test that you have to complete, right, in order to apply to medical school. So you'll have access to a whole host of books, resources, and workshops to prepare you for this very big exam. All right, so here are examples of other preparatory programs which our Duke-NUS partners have very generously provided. So I'll leave it to Dr. Wee to share more about this later on. So the last point I wanted to touch on before I close is that SUTD has very close research and educational partnerships with the hospital near us, Changi General Hospital, right? So from course projects, internships, capstones, Europe projects, guest lectures, we have a lot of engagements with clinicians from Changi Hospital, okay? And I have supervised many students on these projects. So this is a great way for you to learn about the medical profession, as well as to start designing solutions, okay, to actually impact healthcare. Okay, so briefly, the application process, we are looking for highly competitive students. I've put some of the characteristics of these students that we're looking for here in the bottom, okay? If you're interested in applying, please indicate this interest in your SUTD admission application itself, right? If you have, once you accept our degree program here at SUTD, we will then invite you for a special interview, okay, over at the Duke-NUS, okay? We can talk more about the admission requirements later. I want to make sure I leave enough time for Q&A to answer your questions. So here are our pioneer batch of SUTD Duke-NUS special track students that successfully matriculated into Duke-NUS this July, or past July already, July 2021. Okay, so they are doing very well, yeah, and we are very proud of these students. So we hope that you will join us, okay, on this exciting journey towards a better world by design. All right, thank you. So I'll hand over to Dr. Wee from Duke-NUS to share a little bit more about what studying medicine there would be like.
Thanks, Yao Chen. Welcome everybody to this session on SUTD-Duke-NUS Special Track. And we are indeed very pleased that SUTD has been a partner with us for so many years. And the first pioneer batch that came to join us last year in July have been doing very well in the first year of medical school. So I'm going to just share with you about pathways to medicine. And you're probably here in the audience mainly because you're thinking about medicine as a future career track, but also thinking about other things like engineering and design and so on. Now, you're familiar with different pathways to medicine, I presume. The traditional one is undergraduate medicine, where you apply after your A-levels or IB, and you go into NUS or NTU. That's a traditional pathway of getting into medical school. And you graduate with 2 degrees, a Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery degree, called MBBS, and you become a doctor primarily seeing patients and treating diseases. But the alternate pathway is through a non-medical undergraduate study, where you have a first degree in university, and then you enter graduate entry medicine to enter Duke-NUS. Now, the landscape of healthcare is changing tremendously. When I first entered medical school some 30 over years ago, it was very different. Doctors just treated patients, and that's it. Your career is very defined for you. But over time, things have changed so much in the landscape of healthcare that we now do other things as well. We do administration and leadership, like Kenneth Mark, our DMS, for example. We do research, like Ling Fa, who is our BET expert, currently very prominent in COVID because of the test kits that he's been designing. And of course, we have innovation and design, which is where SUTD is very strong in. And that's Rina, one of my surgeon trainees from before, who's an engineering background together with medical background, who's a surgeon who has done innovation and design and started his own startup company as well. So healthcare is changing tremendously. And being a doctor alone is just not enough anymore. So in collaboration with SUTD, we have done a special pathway to medicine. And this pathway gives you an entry into SUTD first to do a program of your choice, any of the 5 different choices that you had before that Xiao Chen shared with you earlier. So if you're keen on engineering design or you're keen on architecture, for example, you can choose those tracks. Once you finish SUTD, then you come on to join us in MD, which Sahat is going to join us this July. And from there onwards, you'll get your degree in medicine after that. Now, along the way, there are things that are going to happen, and I'll share with you later on in the next couple of slides. So what is Duke-NUS? And this partnership between Duke University Medical School, which is one of the top schools for medicine in the US, and NUS, which is a top university in Asia, as you probably know by now, was formed in 2005. And from that onwards, we actually created this medical school to make doctors with a difference. And that's our mantra for clinician first, clinician plus doctors that we want to create. And one of the clinician plus will be a clinician innovator. Now, what this means, it's a cartoon, if you can see here, for example, at the heart of every graduate from Duke-NUS, you'll be first and foremost a clinician. You'll be able to see patients, diagnose conditions, and treat them accordingly, just like any other medical student that comes from any other school. But on top of that, if you have other aspirations, you can then become a clinician scientist, a clinician leader, educator, and so on. And if you're on the SUTD track, we would think you'll be going on towards becoming a clinician first, clinician innovator. Now, what is so interesting about the Duke-NUS curriculum is that we are quite innovative in the curriculum itself also. Unlike typical undergraduate and graduate entry medical schools, where you do 2 years of basic science preclinical and 2 to 3 years of clinical rotations, we have condensed the first 2 years into 1 year using special teaching methods like Team Lead to free up 1 year to let you explore scholarly activity so you can actually grow your passion to be clinician plus. So for example, the projects that you embark on with Changi or with SUTD in your undergraduate years here, you can carry on in the 3rd year and do those projects and develop them further, developing things like implants for knees, cardiac stents, and so on. So these are things that you'll be developing as a clinician innovator with engineering and medicine background. Now, medicine you can't learn from classrooms. A classroom is not the ideal place to learn about patient care, and obviously a strong healthcare partnership is very important. Xiao Chen mentioned Changi. Changi is part of the SingHealth stable. I'm from SingHealth primarily. I'm a surgeon who operates in Singapore General and National Cancer Centre. And Changi is one of our hospitals that is in the SingHealth stable of things. We're the largest healthcare group in the country. And therefore, as a Duke-NUS student, you'll be exposed to a wide range of patients of different specialty types. And the collaboration between Changi and SUTD for research is where you'll be learning a lot, both in your SUTD years as well as in your Duke-NUS time, and later on as a colleague in the healthcare system. So why special pathways? Many of you out there, you're all bright, you're all intelligent, you have more than one interest. I myself, when I was a student at your age, 18 years old, I was keen on architecture, but also keen on medicine. And I couldn't choose both. It was one or the other. But now, with a choice like this, you come to SUTD, you can do a first degree as architectural student or as engineering student before you come on to medicine. It lets you grow your passions. It also makes you a clinician plus long-term potential to contribute to healthcare, both in Singapore as well as worldwide. There are many pathways, obviously, but our strongest one and the most popular one is the SUTD-Duke-NUS pathway, and for obvious reasons, because both are innovative curriculums. This summarizes to some extent what Xiao Chen shared with you earlier. You apply to SUTD, do the 4 years with SUTD in the Bachelor of Engineering or Bachelor of Science. During your time here, apart from what SUTD provides for you, Duke-NUS and SingHealth will provide things that open you up to a whole spectrum of healthcare issues and specialty options, and will guide you along the way. And before you come on to the MD program, which is conditional admission, you need to do your MCAT, do a competitive GPA from SUTD, and obviously attend interviews at the final applicants day as well. Now, how do you finally decide? It's a tough choice. If you want to find out if medicine is for you, please explore. Attend sessions like this, talk to other people who are doctors or medical students, read books on getting into medical school. There's one I wrote myself. If you want to read, that's also quite a useful book to have. Find out more about medicine. Think about what kind of doctor do you want to be. Do you want to be a clinician only? If you do, the undergraduate programs at NUS and NTU are good enough. But if you want to be a special breed of doctors, then become a clinician first, clinician plus. Think of the pathways, the SUTD pathway, for example. And you can find out more about Duke-NUS from our website and from our different social media platforms. And with that, I will just stop here and hand over to Saad to share with you about his life as a student at SUTD going on to Duke-NUS in July. Thank you much for your attention.
Yep. Hi, everybody. I'm Sahat. I'm a Term 7 EPD senior student in the Healthcare Engineering Design track. So yeah, let me just share a bit about my experience in SUTD and also some of the special track experiences that I'm having. So as part of my SUTD experience, I'm also in a few fifth rows in the Muslim community, and I used to be in the floorball and tile clubs as well. And also as an SUTD student, we can take part in research projects, and these are called UROPs, Undergraduate Research Opportunity Programs. And I was involved in a project on the 3D printing of a temporal bone model, and this is something that actually the surgical trainees, they can use to aid in their training in certain techniques. So it was a really eye-opening experience because I had the chance to work with surgeons from SGH and also some faculty from Duke-NUS. Some courses that I had the chance to do is topics in biomedical and healthcare engineering, and also digital biomimetics. And apart from that, this term I'm taking healthcare product design and AI for healthcare. Something I'd like to emphasize about our courses are that we have projects in every course, and especially in healthcare product design and AI for healthcare, we have real clinical problems posed by clinicians, and we use our design thinking and engineering skills to solve these real problems. So that's something that is really exciting. So for my special track experience, one of the really great things is that we have a clinical mentor, as Dr. Koo just mentioned. And as part of having this clinical mentor, we have termly meetings, and we share our project updates. We discuss with them. We find out about the clinical perspectives on our projects. And also we have a lot of mentorship from our clinical mentor in terms of our future in medical school and even beyond medical school, to start thinking about what we may be interested in terms of residency and so on. It's also a form of networking to get to know some of the people in the SingHealth cluster and also some clinicians. We also had a chance for hospital shadowing. So personally, I was involved in the shadowing the radiology department, urology, as well as orthopedic surgery. And as part of that, it was a really interesting experience because I went in and then I had the chance to observe how are things being done, and I try to look out for whether there are certain gaps and if there are ways that we can improve certain things, certain procedures and things like that. So that was a great experience, and it was also an experience to kind of talk to the clinicians and find out more about the specialties from them. Lastly, there's great support and resources in this program. So as Dr. Koo mentioned, there's MCAT resources for preparing for our MCAT examination. We also have general support in terms of the faculty, mentors who will advise and mentor us. And lastly, there are also many opportunities that are shared with us. So for example, if they have healthcare related internships, they will share them with us. And if there are various relevant healthcare talks or conferences, they will invite us to be a part of them. And so these are really enriching and meaningful experiences that have really helped me in my time here so far. So with that, I've come to the end of my very short segment. And yeah, I'd like to just invite you guys to come and join us if you'd like to experience this. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ahad. Thanks, Dr. Ree. So now this is your opportunity to ask us questions. So again, those of you joining us online, welcome. Okay, so I'm sure all of you are here because you're considering whether or not medicine and engineering is the pathway for you. All right, so we have a few questions already. So let me perhaps start with these, and I encourage everyone else to kind of log in to the portal and ask your questions, okay? So, okay, let's start with, okay, so this question is, what is the advantage of perhaps coming to the SUTD special track instead of going directly into medical school? Okay, so perhaps Dr. Wee, do you want to start with this first?
Okay, thanks, Archen. Thank you for the question, whoever's asking that. As I explained to you before, as a student after A-levels, I was looking at architecture or medicine. And really, in those days, you could only choose one or the other. So you will lose one of your interests, you lose one of your passions. And many students nowadays have more than one passion. You look at yourself now, what are you keen on? And Saha, for example, is keen on engineering product design, and is also keen on medicine. How can he do both? If you go into YL or LKC medicine, you're stuck in medicine. There's no other option to go into your other passion, which can be anything, in this case, engineering. So the true pathway like this allows you to do your passion for both passions, but also gives you an almost guaranteed admission to medical school, so you won't feel left out.
Okay, thank you. So maybe I'll add to that a little bit. So I remember when I was in kind of your shoes all those years ago, I thought about medicine and I was actually really interested in it. But a part of me also wanted to be the person to actually solve the problems, right, that came up. You designed the technology that clinicians were actually using, right, in the clinic. So that's why I decided to study biomedical engineering instead. So here you have the opportunity to do both. All right, so as a clinician, you go out, you meet your patients, and you encounter these challenges, right, pain points in the OT or in the ED or wherever you may be. So with this engineering and design kind of toolkit from SUTD, you are better placed to be able to address and solve these challenges yourself, right? Perhaps you won't have the time to actually design these solutions or build them, but at least you know what goes into the process, and you can put together a team, and you can actually start, right, making change, all right? So maybe, Sahat, do you have anything to say about this?
Yeah, sure. So actually, when I was in high school, I was really interested in engineering primarily and trying to solve problems. And then through some volunteering and my national service also, I had experiences that also led me to be really interested in medicine. And so from there, I really considered the SUTD-Duke-NUS program because it has a combination of both of these. And so I can try and apply my engineering and problem-solving skills to try and improve the various many challenges that are present in healthcare. So that's why I'm really happy to be here. Yeah.
Thanks, Sahat.
So Sahat will be the best of both Xiaojia and myself because he's got both our skills. So it's a new breed of doctors that you'll be seeing.
Well, Sahat, you're not off the hook yet. Your other question is, how's the workload like for this track? Are you able to juggle your academics, internships, projects, as well as the track requirements?
I think it is really quite manageable, especially if you just plan and manage your activities well. So, for example, I think maybe for some students, we may require more help in certain subjects. One of the advantages with SUTD is that in the first term, we have the pass-fail system. So you are allowed to, you don't have to worry about your grades, and you just do the coursework, and you can see how much effort you need to kind of put in, and how much projects you can take up, and how much you're able to handle, basically. So that first term is a good kind of primer to get to know, basically.
Okay, thank you. I think we have time for perhaps one or two more questions. We have some more administrative questions, so I'll address those directly. So our special program is open to Singapore citizens as well as Singapore PRs, and we accept about perhaps 10-ish students also each year. That's the general cohort size. Also, the number of students that are accepted yearly, like I said, we are looking for about 10 or so. We've had a range. Of course, like I mentioned, there are some characteristics that we're looking for in our students. So if there are excellent candidates, we're happy to accept you into our program. Okay. Okay, let me just take a quick look. So actually, if you have any remaining admission questions, perhaps we can take them at our booth outside. All right. So given that we have about just a minute or so to go, perhaps I can invite Dr. Wee and Sahat to give some closing remarks before we end this session. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Chen. So thank you everyone for listening today. And I wanted to share with you, as a doctor myself, if you are keen on medicine only, apply undergraduate. If you are keen on a special track like this, where you want to be somebody different, a doctor can make a difference, then apply for the track. We don't really want the numbers, we want the quality, which is why people like Sahat, when we looked at him, with double passions, with the potential to go further as a clinician plus, we will choose individuals like those to come into medical school. So think carefully about your long-term career path. There are so many doctors around, but there are very few special doctors who are called clinician plus. So if you're aspiring to someone different, someone going further, that will be the thing I'll be thinking about. So thank you for listening, and hopefully you join us soon.
I would just like to add that I have had, looking back at my time in SUTD, I've had a very meaningful time here, and we had a lot of very interesting projects, and I'm very happy to be here. And I'm also really looking forward to joining Duke-NUS this coming July, and hopefully work on some projects where I can apply my skills to solve healthcare problems.
Okay, with that, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. I will be happy to take your questions outside. All right, take care.
Thank you, speakers. Now for the SUTD Honours and Research Programme, or SHARP. Please welcome, We will begin the SUTD Honours and Research Programme panel in about 5 minutes' time. Please wait. Welcome back, everyone. Now for the SUTD Honours and Research Programme Panel, or SHARP. Please welcome Assistant Professor Ang Yi Sin with EPD Junior Vanessa Chia and CSD Sophomore Sim Shang Hong.
Thanks very much. Good afternoon. Welcome to the SUTD Open House. My name is Yi Sin. I'm a faculty member from the Science, Mathematics, and Technology cluster. So I'm very happy to see you guys here today, especially we have some live audience. So I'm also an instructor and research project supervisor for the SUTD Honours and Research Program, also known as the SHARP program. So today I would like to take this opportunity to share with you some of the details and the structures of the SHARP programs. And joining me will also be two of our SHARP students who will be sharing their experience in SHARP. So you probably already know there are several special programs in SUTD, and SHARP program is one of these special programs. So here you can see that the highlighted keyword for SHARP is research. So what is SHARP? So SHARP is a research-intensive program specifically designed for prospective students like you who have very strong interest in research. So SHARP actually provides a platform for you to equip yourself with advanced and cutting-edge research skills, and also to sharpen your general overall research backgrounds so that you will be able to immediately pick up research-intensive role or to further your study by taking PhD degree or master degree after completing the degree. So let's look closer at the overall course structure, program structure of SHARP. So basically, SHARP is composed of two key components. The first component is the honors session, which is a pre-research training. So the goal of this honors session, which includes advanced classes, lectures, and short projects. So the goal of these honors sessions is to prepare you for the second component, which is the research projects. So you will take quite a few research projects, several research projects, and these projects will be very closely guided and supervised by our faculty members. So these projects, usually the scope is quite broad, the topic is very broad. It covers aviation, AI, cities, and healthcare. And many of these projects are driven by real-world applications. So the research approach will involve a multidisciplinary research methodology, and the outcomes are usually very interesting. So throughout the SHARP program, you will have many opportunities to travel overseas, and all of your activities, your performance, your efforts devoted to the program will also be formally captured in your transcript. And finally, if you finally to complete the program, you will have to write up a research thesis based on the research projects. So one of the key highlights of the SHARP program is the research grant and the stipend. So as a SHARP student, you will receive up to 7.5K research stipends starting from term 4. And this research stipend is a stipend, so it's given to you and it's all up to you. You can decide how you want to utilize this stipend. And on top of that, you will also be provided a research grant of 7.5K, another 7.5K, to cover your research activity. For example, you can use this money to pay for the publication charges or to travel overseas for conference, for academic exchange. So speaking about overseas travel, in SUTD, we always strongly encourage our students to travel overseas for academic exchanges. For example, if you are awarded the SUTD Global Distinguished Scholarship or the Global Merit Scholarship, then you will have the opportunity to visit some of the very top institutes in Asia, Europe, or US during the summer term for a period of 2 to 3 months. So being a SHARP student, you actually have greater flexibility in terms of overseas travel, all thanks to the research grant. So if there is a particular institute that you really want to visit, you can actually let us know. And the SHARP team will try to link you up and we'll try to work it out. And your visit, your travel to this overseas institute can be fully funded by the 7.5K research grant. So this is a zoom-in view of the program structure of SHARP. So basically, the SHARP program can be divided into 3 key stages, as color-coded here. So in the first stage, The first stage will run from term 1 to term 3. So the first stage are the honor sessions. So this honor session composed of lectures, advanced classes, followed by 6-week short project. So the goal of the honor session is actually to provide a platform for you to explore your research interests. So you are welcome to hop around different projects of different scope, different nature, so to understand what is really your research interest, whether you are more keen to do experimental works or computational works. Then moving on, in stage 2, you will involve in larger scale research project that is at least 1 term long. So for example, you can do one project in term 4 and another project in term 5. Or you can also choose to do a 2-term project that covers both term 4 and term 5. And finally, you will perform a more rigorous, more comprehensive research that covers 3 terms, from term 6 to term 8. And you will have to write a research thesis based on this 3-term research project. And you also have to defend your thesis in the form of oral presentation. And your thesis will be examined by the SUTD faculty members. And of course, throughout these terms, you will always have opportunity to travel overseas thanks to the research grant. So this is a more detailed view on the advanced classes that will be introduced to you in the honor sessions. So typically in term 1, we will introduce you the concept of mathematical modeling, which is very useful for many real-world applications. Then in term 2, we'll cover several topics, for example, chemistry, biology, and also some experimental projects. Then finally, in term 3, more specialized topics will be introduced to you. For example, this year we will have statistical physics and cryptography. So the 6-week advanced classes in each of the honor sessions will be followed by another 6 weeks of short project. So the topics of this project are very broad. Many of them are driven by real-world applications, and some of them are actually basic research, very fundamental. And we also, of course, we also have research that is very interesting, very down to the earth. For example, we have this chop or don't chop project, in which the student actually employ a very rigorous mathematical modeling to understand what is the implication of chopping your seed using tissue paper in a crowded hawker center. And of course, we also have fundamental research like cryptography and quantum physics. So usually before COVID, at the end of the term, we will have a project presentation day to wrap up the honor session. So in this event, our students will showcase their work in the form of poster. Our faculty members will walk around and choose the best poster. And of course, the winning team will receive some small prize. So the SHARP program is very well supported by the SUTD faculty members. So every year, typically, we're expecting around 15 to 20 students. And the honor session is also typically supported by more than 10 instructors. So if you are thinking about this faculty to student ratio, the SHARP program actually has a very, very good number. Okay, so how to apply for SHARP? As already mentioned by Xiaozhen in the previous program, it's very easy, literally just a few clicks. So when you're applying for SUTD in the application portal, just indicate your interest for SHARP. Academically, we are looking for students with very strong academic background, especially in mathematics and science or any science-related subjects. And of course, shortlisted students will have to go through a separate interview by the SHARP instructors or project supervisors like myself. So basically, in this interview, we just want to know more about you, understand your research motivation, and we might ask you a few analytical problems, give you some time to solve, so that we can understand what is the level of critical thinking and your analytical skill. And of course, also your general knowledge in science and technology. Okay, so just a very quick summary to wrap up my session. So a few key bring-home messages for you. So all the efforts devoted into the SHARP program in the honor sessions or the research projects will be formally and officially captured, reflected in your transcript. You'll be supported by the research grant, stipends, and more importantly, you get all the pros of being an SUTD student. So regardless of which pillar or program you've chosen as your main SUTD study, SHARP will provide you another platform for you to craft and build your academic research portfolio. And you're very well supported by research grants and very close mentorship by the SUTD faculty members. So we hope that after completing the program, you will be able to transit into a research-intensive role or to further your study by taking a PhD or master degrees. Okay, so now maybe I can let our students, two of our SHARP students, Vanessa and Shang Hong, to share with you their experience in SHARP. So our first student will be Vanessa. So Vanessa is, I think, previously from River Valley High School, and she has very strong interest in education. She has been a mentor. She has mentoring many students since many years ago. And of course, her research interest is pedagogy research, education research. I think she has published 2 papers so far, which is very, very impressive for undergraduate students. So Vanessa, maybe you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Prof. Ang. So a very good afternoon to all who have joined us in today's sharing session. I'm Vanessa, a final year student from the Engineering Product Development pillar, and today I will be speed running through my experiences in SHARP. So everybody's first question is, why did I choose SUTD? And the reason is simple. It's because of the faculty to student ratio and the facilities per capita. And so because I valued the being able to ask instructors during classroom style lessons to pose my questions to them, and also the availability of rapid prototyping tools for student use. So therefore, SUTD seemed like the obvious choice to me. So looking back, I actually realized that my reasons for joining SHARP were a little bit naive and cringe-inducing because in JC, I had the misconception that research was about operating big cool machines, and I wanted to do that someday. And so after my A-level results, I looked at the monetary benefits that came with SHARP, and I thought, hey, my results aren't too bad, so I thought I'll give it a shot. And because I was in a pioneer batch, so the selection criteria was a little less stringent, and somehow or rather I managed to get in. So, however, when I first got in, the first year was all about honor sessions. And it was really not what I expected. Because while the topics were interesting in and of itself, they weren't really interesting to me. And so what made matters was because I wasn't a straight A student, I was a B+ student. So there were some advanced concepts that flew over my head and made my experience a little bit worse. However, as I shamelessly begged for consults, I realized that the instructors were more than willing to help me out, and for that, I'm very grateful. So looking back, one of the projects that I enjoyed a little more was the physics project on fractal capacitors, and I see that Prof. Ricky Ang is in the audience today. So in this project, why it interests me was because I was finally able to apply my experience in computer-aided design software to do something hands-on like 3D printing. And so on the other hand, ever since I came into SUTD, I was very heavily involved in mentoring students in design thinking. And so in fact, in my first year, I actually worked with a faculty member who introduced me to the idea of design education research. And it was something that I didn't know about, but I was hooked. And so you can see why in my first year, I was even contemplating whether should I be dropping SHARP. Because here I was exploring the boundaries of a research area which I enjoyed, but at the same time struggling in the actual research program. So however, I was glad I stayed on because I never truly understood the value of SHARP until I mentioned to this faculty member whom I did the mentoring with that I was in SHARP and I would like to immerse myself more into research. And he straight up offered me the opportunity to work with him on 2 research papers on design pedagogy innovation. And so tapping into my experience in computer-aided design software, I was able to model his experimental setups as diagrams and was fortunate enough to be included as co-author on both of these papers. And so today, I'm actually working on my undergraduate thesis on identifying prototyping competencies for in design education. And so this adds value to the work of a PhD student who is currently working on coming up with a standardized and comprehensive framework to assess students in design thinking, which up till now has been subjective, varying from course to course, from instructor to instructor. Of course, having a multidisciplinary and diverse advisory committee also means that our discussions are extremely fruitful and always run into overtime because each person brings to the table a unique perspective from his or her own field of expertise. And so apart from the mind-blown moments in my own work, research is also exciting to me because of the ability to participate in academic and industry conferences, whereby I get to see, hotshot names talk about their work. And when I chance upon their research paper or hear about them on the news, I'm able to go, hey, I know that guy, and put a face to their name. And so right now, my advisors and I are actually working to submit my thesis work for an international academic conference in London. And I'm really looking forward to it because this will be my first time traveling overseas for an official business trip. So looking back, I realized I thought to myself that I joined Sharp for all the wrong reasons, but I actually stayed in it for all the right reasons. And I realized that what we actually need as a researcher is passion and to ask a lot of questions, to learn a lot faster, and finding mentors who are supportive of your development. What we don't really need as researchers are exceptional grades or having accumulated a lot of prior research experience. Last but not least, there is a misconception that's probably I heard a few times going around, is that one needs to be in Sharp in order to do research. And that is not true, because SUTD has the Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program that is open to all students who might be interested in finding out what a research career is like. What differentiates Sharp from a regular UROP, however, is the extra funding and close mentorship provided to really train students who are hungry to be researchers, to become researchers of tomorrow. And with that, I'll hand over my time back to Prof. Ang, who will introduce the next speaker. Prof. Ang, please.
So thanks very much, Vanessa. Very interesting sharings. So our next student will be Shang Hong. So Shang Hong is also our Sharp student, and she's a second-year ISTD student working towards the AI track. So it's very interesting that Shang Hong, since she was very, very young, she's already determined to become a researcher since secondary school or JC. So Shang Hong is from St. Andrew JC. So Shang Hong's research is on biology. She's very interested in computational biology and machine learning. And in fact, she's working on her very first paper, which will be submitted for publication soon. So Shang Hong, maybe you can share with us your stories.
Hey, hi everyone, my name is Shang Hong. So yes, actually, my path to research was a little bit unconventional because computer science was initially not part of the plan. So a lot of as Prof. Ang mentioned just now, a lot of my research in the past focused on biology. So here you can see like a culture of multi-drug resistant bacteria, I cultured for a research project in JC. So at this point, I was really working towards like, I want to do life science, medical school. But what was interesting about this project was, it was also my first taste of biocomputation. It was my first time doing protein modeling, and it sparked the interest in like more quantitative like forms of research. And that was what got me to consider Sharp as well. That medical school wasn't the only path. So another thing that really got me into research was my participation in Singapore Science and Engineering Fair. So in this picture, you can see I was interacting with a Nobel laureate. And through this experience, I really appreciated the international perspective that he shared. Like he told me about how research was like overseas in Switzerland. And that was when I realized that research you really need to do in an international environment to learn about other people's perspectives and to even get new inspiration to go further in your field. So when I saw Sharp and how Sharp offered the opportunities to go overseas to participate in overseas summer programs such as Stanford overseas summer program, I was quite interested in that, and that was one of the reasons why I applied for Sharp as well. However, I think, as Vanessa has already mentioned, it has not always been easy. So in the first year, you have to clear all these requirements to continue in the Sharp program. So some of the modules are listed here. So coming from a biology intensive background, I didn't do high-level physics. So as you can imagine, it was a really big struggle for me to handle graduate-level physics courses. But I would say with enough determination and really, really hard work, I think you'll be able to pull it through even without a higher level physics background. Another thing that really helped me through Sharp as someone without a background was the strong support system. So I think as Vanessa has also mentioned, the profs are very supportive of you. If you ask for help, there will be help. You just have to like reach out for it and have initiative. Not besides the prof, I think the people working with me were also very supportive. So for example, in term 1, I did this Prorgamme paradox modeling with a friend. And this friend also offered to help me out for nonlinear dynamics course to explain linear algebra background that I did not have back then. So in this first picture, you can also see that I did a project on vascular biology with Prof. Xiao Juan and Prof. Chen Hui. I think they were both very dedicated. They stayed until 10 p.m. in the lab to help us. So I think I was very touched by the instructors' dedication to helping us succeed. So I think what I took away from SHARP was that even though it was very, very challenging, I think it made me more open to doing things that doing fields that I'm uncomfortable with. So, for example, in my previous summer, I applied for brain-computer interface research. It was a completely new field, but because SHARP has already prepared me to do very difficult things and very new fields, brain-computer interface was. I felt like I could do it, and thankfully I was able to do it, and now I'm working to publish it in a conference journal. So that's all from me. Maybe I'll leave some time for Q&A. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Zhang Hong. Thanks for sharing your stories. So just to share with you, the SHARP program, as already mentioned by the students, by joining the SHARP program, you'll receive not just the stipends and the research grant, you will also have very close mentorship by our faculty members. And this is really unusual compared to typical Europe projects and so on. And also to share with you that the SHARP project is open to everyone for all nationalities. So if you really have a strong academic background, you feel that you have strong background, you have very strong motivation to perform research. So please apply for the program. Okay, so we can probably now take in a few questions from the audience. I also have a few questions from the web. So, okay, so maybe let me ask these questions, direct this question to the students. What kind of research projects are offered to you? Can you share maybe some of the projects that you feel that is really interesting during honor session and so on? Maybe Vanessa, do you have anything to share?
Sure. So I mentioned before in my talk, there was the physics project on fractal capacitors, which was something that I chose out of a list of projects that were offered. And of course, after the honor sessions, we are also allowed to do our own SHARP Europes, which are like our own research projects. And so there are actually a list of projects from faculty who want to apply to have SHARP students help out in their project. So there's a list given every term for you to choose from. And well, if you don't like what's on the list, you can always propose your own project. So in my fourth term, I actually did a project that is on optimizing airport runway capacities. And so this was a big data analytics project from the ESD pillar. So it wasn't even in the same pillar that I was part of, but I took it anyway because out of the project list, it was the one that I did not hate the least. So it was very interesting because I actually got to learn a new programming language, which is called R, and picked up a lot of big data analytics skills along the way. And so finally, when I embarked on my SHARP thesis, I realized that I wanted a project in design education, and so I specifically went and asked around different faculty members if they would like to be my advisors for my thesis, and so that was how I got the other project. So maybe I'll hand over the time to Shang Hong to talk about her experience.
Okay, so in first year, the SHARP Honours program projects are mainly centered around math and physics. They are predominantly that. But in term 2, there was a project on experimental biology. And as someone who's interested in biology, I took up that project. It was on vascular biology and about inflammation, inflammation research. But in the first and then the third terms, I took research projects mostly focused on machine learning and also mathematics. In fourth term onwards, I think there is more flexibility, as Vanessa mentioned, to propose your own project. So, for example, my current project is self-proposed. I sourced my own supervisor and proposed my own project, which is on hashing algorithms. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing now. Yeah.
Thanks, Zhang and Vanessa. So maybe you can answer one more last questions. So this question is from Lichen from the web. What are the interviewers looking for when they are considering candidates for SHARP? Maybe I can answer this. So of course, we are looking for students with very strong academic background, especially in science subjects and mathematics. Mathematics is, of course, very important for many research areas. And of course, when we interview you, we also look at how you answer the questions. We'll give you certain questions. So of course, we are not looking for really precise answer that is precise up to 10 decimal places, not like that. Basically, we focus on your thought process, whether you can make very reasonable justifications, reasonable assumptions, and so on. So these are the qualities we are looking. Okay. So I think we have a few seconds left, so maybe just a very quickly wrap up. So if you are really interested in SHARP program, really interested in SHARP, please feel free to talk to us in the booth outside, or you can send an email to ask us any questions anytime. Okay. Thank you very much, and I look forward to see you in SUTD very soon. Thanks.
Thank you, speakers. Members of the audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to approach any of the mics along the aisle to ask your questions. Next, we will have the SUTD Technology Entrepreneurship Program panel in just a few minutes. Welcome back, everyone. Now, for the SUTD Technology Entrepreneurship Program, also known as STEP, please welcome Associate Professor Tan Yu Xuan with Li Jiajuan and Terence Tan from the STEP program.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking time to attend this session. And I'm Yu Xuan, the Program Director for SUTD Technology Entrepreneurship Program. And together with me, I have the two students, JJ and Terence. Okay, so what we'll be doing is that I'll first give a quick overview, 10 minutes of the overview program. Then after that, I'll have a dialogue session with two of them. And actually, I welcome everybody over in this auditorium as well as those online to actually to write in the questions. And for the auditorium, you can just use the mic around to actually ask us some questions. Okay, so with that, I will give a quick overview of the program. Yep, on about STEP. So first thing, what is our objective? We actually want to train engineers who are entrepreneurs, okay? So that's the core objective that about the STEP. We want them to be deep in technology, be it the hardware or software. The technology part is actually quite critical. And not only just about technology, the social part is also something that we're actually looking at also. So with that, not only that, we also will be sending our students overseas, so that's where the international part will actually come in. And after that, we also hope that they can actually appreciate the various different culture, so that will actually help them when they are actually designing products, systems, etc. How is it being structured? So this one is a quick overview on the structure for STEP. Okay, it is a 10-term integrated program. Okay, at the end of the 10 terms, they will actually graduate with a Bachelor of Science or Bachelor of Engineering, depending on which program they are actually in. And on top of that, they will actually be getting a Master in Science, a Master of Science in Technology Entrepreneurship. Okay, so similar to the other two special track, if you notice that the students can actually able to enroll in any of the 5 majors, covering DAI, ASD, EPD, ESD, as well as the CSD. Okay, information about these programs, etc., I think you can go outside the booth, etc., to get more of them. So what I'll be focusing is what is the additional thing about the entrepreneurship part that actually will be incorporating in this particular program. So if you notice, in terms of the, on the left side, okay, in terms of the 10 terms integrated, where they will come in, they will actually do their program, freshman years, etc. On top of that, okay, we actually organize various courses to actually enhance their entrepreneurship experience. For example, in this case, term 1, term 2, and term 3, we have some start something workshops actually for them to actually experience, which I will touch more about that. After that, they will actually take the entrepreneurship course in term 4, okay, to actually help them get a more in-depth type of the understanding of the entrepreneurship part. After that, we actually will send them overseas for 1 year. It will actually cover both 2 universities. One example will be from the USA as well as the China, okay, which I also talk more about that. That part there is actually to give them exposure, international exposure, as well as the different type of culture in the various startup type of the environment. At the end of term 7, they will actually fly back to SUTD. Then they will actually continue their term 8, term 9, and term 10, which they will actually do both their Master of Science project as well as their capstone project. So this one is actually a quick overview of how the structure is like. Then actually I will go into some details about them. Okay, so as mentioned just now, term 1, term 2, term 3, term 4, okay, they will actually be in SUTD. So one thing that we actually, because they are fresh, etc., one thing that we actually try to encourage them to try out new things, etc. So with that, we actually have the STEP Entrepreneurship Prototyping Grant. Okay, so because they are new, we actually will give them some grant to actually try something new. Okay, so that they are actually protected and they can actually try something new. After that, on top of that, we have courses organized by the Venture, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship, in short, VIE. So it's the whole series of the courses is called Start Something. It actually consists of 3 portions. First is the ideation part, which is to ideate something, whereby the students will actually go through the design thinking type of the courses to actually to ideate some new innovation. For term 2, they will actually experience the prototyping part to build something. Because after you ideate already, you shouldn't end there. So that's where term 2, they will actually, the particular course will actually be focusing on making it into a product. And when it comes to term 3, after making a product, we must not forget about the business part, which is actually quite critical if you really want to sell and market your product. So that's where term 3, they will actually focus on that. So that's what we actually cover for the first 3 terms. Okay, along the way, there will be the different various types of the mentoring, okay, as well as the co-working space together with the other startup companies over in the SUTD, so that they can actually learn from each other. In term 4, we have the 30.111, which is an entrepreneurship course. So notice that after going all the courses, they have all the foundation already. So over here, it's actually a holistic course, whereby the students will actually go through various types of learning activities. So they will actually include things like there will be entrepreneur panel, Okay, we fire chats with all the NSCs, etc. Okay, they will be invited for them to actually do some pitching. They will also be involved prototyping, okay, local user engagement, so on and so forth. Okay, and not only that, they also learn how to market their product. So that's where the online marketing will actually come into play. Okay, because at the end of the day, after you design and develop your product already, you must be able to sell it. Company visits, all these things will also be included, okay, to actually let them have a better understanding of how the industries are actually working on. So that is the 30.111. After term 4, okay, after term 6, sorry, after term 5, they will actually travel to overseas, okay, for their experience. So this is actually one example of the overseas trip, okay, that the students actually have opportunity to go over. So UC Berkeley Extension is one of them, okay. So in fact, we actually have some current students who are actually currently at UC Berkeley Extension now. Okay, in fact, before this, some of them actually were messaging us to share about how's their stay there, and yeah, the opportunities that are associated over there that they're actually taking up. So over there, they will be taking various entrepreneurship courses, and I was always telling them, not only the courses is important, they also should grab whatever opportunities. Okay, like in this case here, we have one student who actually took up a STEP program in UCB. Okay, but of course, their STEP program in UCB is actually a student type of entrepreneurship program, because at the end of the day, he actually want to get closer to understand how the culture and the networking are being done, okay, over there. So that is the January to the April at UC Berkeley Extension. From May to August, the students will still remain in San Francisco area, okay, as in California area. Then they will have the opportunity to do internship, okay, in places like the Silicon Valley. So they will be attached to the companies like startups, etc., so that they can actually see what is the different style of doing things, okay? Because at the end of the day, different companies have different styles, different countries also have different style, okay? So at the end of the day, you must be able to appreciate them and apply what is important for your business to grow. After the Berkeley side, okay, they will actually go over to the China Lake. So Zhejiang University is one of our strong partners. So that's where they will actually be spending the September to the December in Zhejiang University to actually take more additional entrepreneurship courses. After that, you see that by then they will have experienced have all the necessary entrepreneurship knowledge as well as experience the 1 year overseas. Then they will fly back to SUTD. They will continue with their master's thesis as well as their entrepreneurship capstone, etc. So for the master's thesis, it's supported by all the various programs, and we have all the various research centers that's available. You can actually take a look at the website. There's actually a wide range basically for the students to actually choose from. Then we also have the entrepreneurship capstone, okay, where the students will actually embark on the entrepreneurship project, okay, as their capstone project. Okay, there will be a grants given, about 7K, okay, and they can actually work on their project to hopefully at the end of the day, they can actually do some form of startups. And in these slides, I'm also sharing some of the student startups, okay, and of course, BIP is actually one of the company founded by Terence, which actually I will let him talk more about it later. Okay, so there's actually quite a number of the startups that were actually founded by our students. Okay, so I will not be able to share all here. BIP, I will let Terence talk about it later. But over here, I'll just do a quick introduction to cover just 2 examples of startups that we actually have founded by the students. One is Kodomo. It's founded by these 3 students here. Notice that their background is also quite widespread. We have the information ISTD student. We also have the EPD student. We also got the architecture side. So there's also one strength of SUTD, okay, whereby we have students from different backgrounds coming together to do something very interesting. For Kodomo, they actually have various products, and you can notice that they actually managed to raise different amounts for their various type of products along the way. And just to share with you, they also have been featured in numerous type of media type of things, okay, and also wins a number of the awards. So this is actually one of the examples. The other is when this company, which is actually working more towards sensing technologies for road safety. So they started by building their helmet, okay, by installing sensors for their helmet, so that it actually provide better situation awareness for the rider. hopefully this will actually reduce the accidents, etc. So this was actually how they are started. And this product was actually featured in media like Straits Times, Today, CNA, and the CES over at US. So recently, what they're doing now, because of their good preliminary work, they actually managed to get a contract, okay, from Comfort. So Comfort actually has contracted them to install sensors for their driving circuits for the rider. Basically, to install sensors on the circuit, so that at the end of the day, they hope to automate the so-called the test circuit. So it means that through the sensors, they will actually certify whether the riders actually pass or fail. Okay, so they are doing well, and actually I like this particular photo here, is because actually they actually started over at SUTD Entrepreneurship Center, and they actually have shifted out already. Okay, they actually have gotten a contract and gone out to actually venture out already. So we are happy for them. And so with that, at the end of the day, we actually hope that through this program, we actually hope to incorporate both technology and design, plus entrepreneurship for a better impact. Okay. So that one is a quick overview, okay, in terms of what is covered for the program. So with that, I will actually be opening up questions and having a chat together with my two students here. And then feel free to actually use the mic, okay, for those who actually physically here also. So with that, so I will start the dialogue session with the two students also. With that, do you mind? I will actually ask them to introduce themselves first before I actually start some of the questions. So, JJ, you want to start first?
Test, mic test. Hi, my name is JJ. I completed the STEP program at the end of last year, and I was in a EPD pillar, and I'm currently waiting to start a role in Shopee as a product manager for their Shopee Pay product. In between, I guess, for these few months, before I start my role there, doing some part-time work with two different startups. Interestingly, despite the engineering degree, my part-time work actually is in business development as well as digital marketing, completely 100% deviant from the engineering EPD degree which I did for my undergraduate, and more, I guess, in line with what I did for my master's, for the master's program under STEP. Yeah, so that's briefly about me.
Oh, hi everyone, I'm Terence. So currently I'm actually still an undergrad student at SUTD. So I co-founded a startup called Beep with a few of my army friends back in 2019. So to date, we have been quite lucky. Basically what we do is we have an AIoT automation platform for all sorts of different devices. We started out from vending machines, and now we're venturing into also EV charging stations and also unattended like healthcare devices as well. So yeah, thanks.
Thanks for the introduction. So as mentioned just now, those who are online, feel free to type your questions in on the web. For those who are here physically, you may also use the mic to ask us any questions. So maybe I will start off, okay, the questions with you all. So maybe I'll start with JJ, start with you first. You have actually been through the courses that's actually in this particular program. Can you share with the rest of them, like, what is your most memorable part, and yeah, which part of the experience that you find extremely useful and interesting?
So for me, I joined STEP. I joined SUTD in 2017, and I had a chance to go to the US, UC Berkeley, in 2019 or 2020? Sorry, the year COVID actually hit. So I was in the US for a couple of months, and then of course COVID plagued the entire. Plagued us globally, and then that kind of caused the trip to the US to be cut short. But I think we spent a good amount of time there to have almost the full experience. I would like to say that the courses that we took in the US, as well as the classes on entrepreneurship that we took in China, were actually really, really unique and very beneficial to us. I think for anybody who is keen on entrepreneurship, while a lot of entrepreneurs and founders do not necessarily take a program in entrepreneurship, and of course you can learn how to engage in starting your own business yourself, as Terence has done. He started it in his army days, and he's not alone. There are a lot of people who have done that as well, and we have a lot of SUTD students who are doing so, who are not in a STEP program. But I think the benefit that you get is that you get a head start. As instead of, I guess, in most, how they define entrepreneurship or how they kind of talk about it is, it's an exploration on figuring out a viable business opportunity. And I guess an entrepreneurship journey is one where you are exploring a lot of different things, but having a guided approach, which is in which you take classes and courses toward it, helps shorten the exploratory phase and perhaps allows you to have, I guess, a better pathway to start your own business. For example, as engineering students, we don't know about accounting. You're not familiar with marketing. You're not familiar with international business, how to deal with different regions. You have no idea how to turn your idea into a business. And that's why taking classes like those that you take in UC Berkeley and in China, which are, I guess in this case, the biggest entrepreneurial markets right now. Most businesses we see today, that the things we use are either from the US or from China, gives you that exposure and the right direction to do so. We take classes like digital marketing, international business, business negotiation, market research, and all of these help us in our approach towards entrepreneurship, which is why actually it's quite interesting. The part-time work that I'm doing right now mainly focus on a business development role, where I've joined some early stage startups, and because of the courses that I've taken, despite having not done a complete startup myself, I'm able to give very insightful suggestions and feedback to the founders that I work with.
If I can add on here, right, even if you have an existing idea or maybe you have an existing side hustle outside, I think the STEP program has a lot of value as well, as what JJ mentioned. It's not just about the syllabus, but I think also the community, because you can be immersed in a community of top talents, because, you know, talent around the whole world is getting very scarce, especially in the tech sector. So a lot of our colleagues at BIP, right, they're also from the STEP program. And I haven't personally went through the China and the US portion, but I look forward very much to, because I think for us, even though we sort of did it initially, but we have growing pains, and I think going through a more structured course to see how we can actually handle the whole product life cycle, HR life cycle, customer acquisition life cycle, will help us to scale to the next level. And I think also another thing, some of the seniors' feedback is that the US experience is really very eye-opening, because I think for Asian context and the American context is completely different. So if you want to market your products one day or launch in US market, you need to know the local context, and I think the networking opportunities that the SF exchange will provide are very valuable, and I very look forward to going next year. Yeah, thanks.
Actually, that's a very valid point. Honestly, taking entrepreneurship or business-related classes both from Singapore, China, and the US, each perspective is very, very unique. Even though there are some overlaps to a certain extent, of course, the courses are a little bit different. We have digital marketing, which we took in Singapore, international business from China, and then market research, which was done in the US. And they always talk about their view of entrepreneurship and their approach towards it. It is always very unique to have that different insight, and I think it's really very eye-opening. It's a great experience to have done these courses overseas.
Great, thanks for sharing your insights about the program with the rest of them. So Terence, just now also, you were mentioning that you actually have been working on BIP, your company, self-founded company. Do you want to talk more about, describe about your company?
Thanks, Prof. So I think for us, originally when we first started BIP, our goal was really to sort of, find a way to maybe help merchants. Let's say you have a mobile phone, you can just accept credit card or like EasyLink payments directly on the mobile phone without having any additional hardware. But after we actually went through some of the ideate something sessions, build something sessions, we realized that that approach might not be very good. So we actually learned a lot from the sessions which the VIE and the school provided. Then we realized actually it might be better to pivot into something more niche. So we pivoted into unattended payments. So from there, I think when COVID hit, we were quite lucky. We won the contract for the government to actually supply all the vending machines across Singapore. So if you collect the mask, trace together token, or ART kit, are all powered behind the scenes by our systems. And maybe to touch on that point, this might not be 100% STEP related, right? But more SUTD in general, right? I think another great thing about the SUTD syllabus, why it's so different, is because you really, especially in the first year, have exposure to all different mods. So this was really helpful when we tried to secure the MOH deal, because back then, somewhere last year, May, before Singapore had the Delta wave, right? All our testing was done using PCR. So for us, we early on we saw based in the US and also European markets that they were transitioning towards ART, but we had to see how we can actually convince the Singapore market to switch to using ART. So I think that a lot of the courses we learned, like the bio, intro to design, and also entrepreneurship mod, right, help us to really be able to go through that design thinking process and actually pitch a good solution to the government, which allowed them to transit towards using ART. And then today we have home recovery and self-testing as the primary way of going through the Omicron wave. So I think very thankful for the great syllabus and support from the school. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's quite interesting. Okay, and happy to know that our students also have been contributing during this COVID-19 situation and like helping in the mass distribution, which all of us are quite familiar with now. Yeah. So with that, I think we have a question from the website. Okay, they were asking, the program sounds quite packed. So they're wondering, how do you actually survive the whole process?
Actually, maybe I can jump on that question since I've been through the entire program. I would like to think that it's actually not very packed. I think what is great is that the only difference between your curriculum as a STEP student versus an ordinary student in SUTD taking a general, one of the undergrad courses, is that you just take one extra year to travel the world and understand how business is done in various regions. And I think that 1 year is just like, you can imagine it's like a 4+1. And that +1, honestly, I feel makes a huge difference. So I think the workload compared to a ordinary SUTD student isn't very different. Then, of course, on the side, while in your undergraduate years and taking undergraduate courses in SUTD, the difference between you and any other student is, I guess, how much effort and time you want to put into exploring other entrepreneurship opportunities, and it's up to you to balance that. But if you talk about the curriculum itself, the workload honestly isn't a lot. It's pretty manageable.
I see, so interesting. And Terence, just like you were sharing so many about your company, so I'm just wondering, what gives you the passion? What made you so excited to actually do a startup?
I think for me, initially I didn't really have the idea of doing a startup because my background is really in tech. So I applied for the STEP program actually because the number one, actually the main reason is because of the overseas exchange programs. Because when I first applied, I was very interested to see how to understand the whole tech ecosystem, both in China and also in SF, especially for the China region, because there's a lot of IoT and hardware stuff. So, but I think moving forward, I think what made me motivated is really but when the product, going through the courses, we see the product has a good market validation, customers are happy, then customers feedback to us that they love the product, then I think it motivates us to just continue. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, wondering, is there any questions from the audience here that you actually would like to ask? Feel free to use the mic. Okay, there's no need to be shy. We can just answer here. Okay, if not, then I will answer one more questions from the website. It's actually asking for the China leg. Okay, they're actually asking whether is there any is it a must to know Mandarin, etc. So for the China leg, etc. All the courses in the STEP program are actually conducted in English. So that one is fine. So basically, if you do not know Chinese, you will be able to survive the Zhejiang courses. And not only that, from what I've seen from the past batches, etc., some of them actually also managed to pick up some basic Chinese. And they also can actually appreciate the culture there better also, which is beneficial for them in the future. Okay, so there's one on that. And I think we have only left 1 minute here. So with that, maybe I will ask the two of them to actually leave 2 or 3 sentences on what would you say to the juniors here why should they be signing up for STEP?
Oh, okay. I think the main value proposition of STEP is really, as mentioned, is the whole ecosystem of like-minded individuals. So you might not have intention to maybe do a startup now. When I first joined SUTD, I didn't have any intention. It's really like an organic thing. But I think if you have a passion for building products and you want to make your products scale globally, I think the STEP program is very good because you get to have knowledge from both Singapore, China, and US, such that you can build products in future that can scale globally. Then you can either be an entrepreneur or entrepreneur is up to you in your career, but it gives you that flexibility. Yeah.
I think the STEP program really gives you good exposures to engineering pillars as well as business fundamentals. And if you're interested in both fields, the STEP program is definitely for you, especially if you're keen in even roles such as product management, consulting, or if you want to consider entrepreneurship as a future pathway, then the STEP program really is very beneficial for that purpose.
Yeah, Thank you. So, Terence and JJ, thanks again for taking time to join us in this session. For our physical audience as well as those online, if you are interested in STEP, okay, in your application, just check the box that you're interested in STEP, and the admission office will actually process it accordingly. With that, we thank you for your time for this session, and hope you have a good day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, speakers. With that, we have come to the end of our morning session. Please exit this auditorium and do visit our booths outside or take a campus tour. See you again at 2:30 p.m. for our admissions and scholarships talk. Thank you.